Hello. This is the team consisting of Aditya, Madhu, Komal, Guneet, and Shrishti. This is a quick video demonstration of our auction application RadBid. In this video demo, we're going to show you the user interface and the smart contract logic. For now, we are showing it through the Resim, which is the local simulator of Radix. Quickly going over through the slides, we just have 4 contracts: authorization, adding users into the application since it's a permissioned blockchain system, adding auction items, and bidding logic. So with this, let's get started. I'll be opening up the UI here. So the UI is a quick login screen. So right now we'll be logging in as the admin. And you get the dashboard, and the admin is able to access the entire application. For now, we have logged in as the admin. We can also log out, and we can also log in as a user. Let's say John Doe is one of the registered users in the application. And the admin and the users, they have different privileges on what protocols they can access. So let me quickly show you the low-level working of one of our smart contracts. And please note that I will be showing the low-level working of one particular smart contract, which is the authorization. And I will show the relevant screens for all in some time. But I would be skipping over the low-level working of other smart contracts because they all follow the same pattern as the authorization logic. Right now, coming to a smart contract, this is our authorization contract. Right, as you can see here, we have authorization, bidding, users, and auction items, 4 different contracts. So for the authorization contract, let me use Resim to run and show you how this works. So for now, the first step would be to create a new account. So Resim new account, we get the account component address, the public key, and the private key. Now let us let's create the admin account first, right? The admin account, the very first account would be ideally the admin account, right? So export account 1 is equal to, I'll be copying the the account component address. I will copy the private key of that account, and I'll publish the package. Now, if you notice here, once you publish the package, you get a new package ID, right? So this package ID, I'm going to use it to, I'm going to put it in an environment variable. So export package equals this. So once you have this, this is relevant to the equivalent to the .ab and the wasm file, which we typically use to deploy it in AlphaNet. So this is in Resim. I'm drawing a parallel comparison, right? Now, once we have the package ID, what we can do is we can use this package ID to call functions in our contract. Now, as you can see in the contract, we have the instantiate user, auth, we have the request user, approve user, and all these various functions. We can use the package ID to actually start initiating, to actually call the instantiate user auth, right? So first, let's do Resim. I have it written here. So Resim call function, package user auth, instantiate user auth. So copy pasting this would yield to generating one component address and 4 resources. Now, these 4 resources correspond to the resources here, which is the resource builders here for admin badge, component badge, temporary badge, and user badge, right? So these are the 4 resources and one single component address, right? Now let's export this component address into a component variable. That's done, and let's do Resim show $account1, right? Now, as you can see here, an admin badge has been generated for this particular user, right? Which is the admin, right? Now what we can do is let's create another new account. Let's take this account as account 2, which is basically one of the participants in the system. Exporting the private key of this account, and let's set the default account to account 2 for now. Okay, so Resim set default account $account2 and $pk2. Okay, so the default account is updated. Now let's call the method request user, right? So if you see the request user, you need a username, right? Now, for now, let's take the username as John Doe, right? So resume call, resume call method, which is the component variable which you have already stored in the previous export function. So John Doe, right? As you can see here, it's committed, right? Now, if we show John Doe's account, you can see that John Doe has a temporary badge, right? So the request user function, in a smart contract basically mints a temporary badge, right? In a bucket. Now going back, let us set now the current account we have is John Doe, right? Now let us try to, now we know that John Doe is not an admin, right? So let us actually call a function such as approve user. So we know that approve user is one of the functions in the protocol which requires an admin badge, right? So if I were to call approve user as John Doe, it's going to throw me an error saying that authorization error, right? So now what we can do is, the only function which John Doe can do is claim user. Because what does the claim user do? It basically, all the users which have a temporary NFT badge, right? They're going to deposit it and they're going to get the user badge, right? So before we do claim user, we'll have to first switch back to the admin account, which is resume set default account. The default account is updated to the admin account. And then just to show you the admin account again, we see that the admin badge has a different resource address, right? So let's using this resource address, we can call in the admin. We can use this resource address to call admin related functions. So export admin equals this particular resource address. Resume, and let's call the method to approve John Doe, which currently has a temporary NFT, who has a temporary badge, right? So once you do this, it's going to create an approve user.rtm file. If you see here, I'm going to move this to the side of the screen. A quick overview of what this RTM file consists of. The first line basically contains the proof of your admin badge, right? This is the proof, the create proof by amount. That's the proof of the admin badge. The second line basically has, it locks the transaction fees, which is required for any transactions created by this admin, by this component address, which is the admin's component address. The third line basically calls the actual method, which we are calling. And the fourth, it deposits any resources put on the transaction layer. From the entire worktop vacuums and deposits the entire resources and it puts it on the transaction layer, right? Now closing this RTM file, now we need to run this RTM file. So it's resume run approve user.rtm. Now what we can do is let's switch back to John Doe. Okay, default account updated. Now if we see account 2, we can see that John Doe now has the temporary badge which already exists. Let's export it. Okay, let's export the temporary badge. And once we do that, now we can call the claim user function. And please note, as I mentioned, claim user is the only function which John Doe can actually access, right? Now, if you see here, committed is success. Now, if you see account 2, John Doe should have the user badge. Yep. So John Doe does have the user badge right now. Now, this is the low-level working of one of the smart contracts. Please note that the other smart contracts follow the same exact pattern, right? Now, let's go back to the UI right now. Let me actually log in as the admin. Now the screens, let's go to the auction screen. In the auction screen, you will be able to explore. Please note that this is currently dummy. These are dummy data, but basically under listings, we have the list of all auction items which are put up for this thing registration. Now, assuming that this admin is one of the wants to sell an item, let's say, the seller can actually go to register item. And then it's a simple 3-step form. You proceed with the first step, which is basically to have an item name, let's say some house on 567 Boulevard, tag real estate, and price, let's say 400,000. If you click next, right? Now, once if you submit this form, what actually happens is the item name, description, tag, and price, all of those, all of these will actually go into the auction items here, right? Now, if you see the auction items contract, you have the item name, description, item tag, and the price point, right? So once if you submit this form, we will be entering into the basically it will be communicated to this particular smart contract, and then through the same local demo which I showed as similar to the authorization. This will create an item. It will create an item, and we have a function called list all items. So the list all items will basically show you all the items as I showed in the table here, right? This is a list all item. Now, what we can do here is, as a user, we can actually quick bid the item. Now, once if you see quick bid, you have the last bid price and the initial bid price. Your bid price should be greater than the last bid price. And for that, we have the, for that, we have the smart contract, which is bidding.rs. So this is an this is an English auction type smart contract where you can actually place your bids, and there are various access rules. There are rules to cancel your auction, withdraw, bid, which is basically this, right? And you can so this contract basically handles that logic here, where you can actually place a quick bid and type in your bid price, right? And if you type, and if it's once you deploy to AlphaNet and once it's connected, the last bid price will get updated here, right? And finally, going to the final piece of the demo, which is the users page. In the users page, you'll basically see the list of all users. So the relevant smart contract for this is basically users.rs, where you have the name, address, state, postcode, country, mobile phone, and email stored of the user. Excuse me. And this is the user data blueprint, right? We have various functions like instantiating user, creating a new user. Now let us take a look at creating a new user, right? So you can go to add users. For future scope of work, we have kept uploading bulk users as part of CSV Excel file. But for now, let's add a single user. If you hit continue, it's again a 3-step form. Proceed with it, right? You can have the user name, like for example, it's John again, just for the sake of it. Some address, test, your state NC, your postal code, some postal code, USA, the mobile phone, John at gmail.com. And if you take a look at once if you hit the submit user form, right, it's going to give these details to the users.rs here, which is name, address, state, postcode, country, and mobile phone and email, right? Which are these things which I'm capturing, right? And yeah, so this is the end of all the smart contracts which I have reviewed: the authorization, the users, the auction items, and the bidding logic itself, right? With that, we are at the end of the demo.